We move on to the pattern variables. That is, the pattern means some kind of arrangement, some kind of, let's say, style of relationships, or how people act in certain situations. So in the formulation of the theory of actions, Parsons portrayed purposive actors. That is, the actors who are acting with a purpose. When we talk about purpose, maybe they are oriented to the achievement of a certain goal, and their action is, let's say, instrumental in the achievement of the goal. That action is functional. So actors' actions are oriented towards the achievement of the goal. These are disposed. These are, let's say, motivated for the achievement of the goals. And these actions are again governed by the norms of the society. They are regulated by the norms of the society. So when they are acting, the actors are in fact fulfilling the normative requirements for the satisfaction of the goals, for the gratification of the goals. So the expectations which they have from each other, these are patterns. When they are repeated over time, they take a style. So they become some kind of pattern, some kind of style, and the structure of relationship is spelled out. So repeated actions take a certain shape, certain style, certain design, and actions are governed by these patterns. So there can be subjective normative orientations which are situation specific, or a subjective normative orientation which govern the, let's say, actions of the individuals. So there can be a pattern in situation specific subjective orientations, and people have developed some kind of, let's say, criteria for distinguishing different types of subjective normative orientations. So maybe in one kind of situation we have one pattern of behavior, one pattern of relationships, another kind of situation, another kind of, let's say, behavior. So that has emerged over, let's say, a period of time. When the actions are repeated, some kind of pattern takes a shape. So two bases of social action. One is motivational orientation and the other is value orientation. Motivation orientation refers to person's desire to maximize the gratification and minimize the deprivation. So the maximize the gratification and minimize the deprivation. So the person is trying to make a balance between the fulfillment of the immediate needs and the long range needs. So maybe he is trying to prioritize, preferring to satisfy particular need, whereby the person is deferring the satisfaction of other need. So you might be trying to, let's say, satisfy the need of getting a particular degree and deferring the satisfactions of some other needs, postponing some other needs. So lots of individuals might be trying to get the education first, and they might postpone getting married later on. That is how we see that when we prefer the satisfaction, gratification of needs, some needs, and postponing the satisfaction of needs to some future time. Value orientation refers to normative standards that govern the individual's choices and priorities with respect to different needs and goals. So normative standards come from the culture of the society. whether these standards are formal or informal. So in a industrial society, in a modern industrial society, many of these non-normative standards are formalized in the form of rules and regulations. In an agricultural kind of society or a simple society, these may not be in that formal kind of situation, but then these are in operation. So all relationships involve mutual orientation of two or more persons toward one another. So mutual orientations are again governed by those very norms of the society. So these orientations have been classified in terms of pattern variables. So these relationships have the variation, but then there is some pattern, some kind of design, some kind of standardized kind of let's say patterns of behavior. So Parson's pattern variables are dichotomous. Variables can be of different let's say types with respect to let's say a continuity or discontinuity, but his variables are discontinuous kind of variables, dichotomous kind of variables. So there is no continuity in the variables, and if there is no continuity, perhaps we are unable to rank order them as well. Dichotomous, just like men and women, so that's a dichotomous kind of variable. So he is trying to say whatever his approach is more like industrial society versus let's say simple kind of society. If we go back and look into Ferdinand Tönnies typology of the society, where he divided society into, let's say, Gemeinschaft society and Gesellschaft society. Gemeinschaft as rural society and Gesellschaft as urban society and Gemeinschaft as rural society, or same kind of dichotomy as Durkheim gave us with respect to these kind of two societies as mechanical solidarity and organic solidarity. Mechanical solidarity was more applicable to rural society, a simple society, whereas organic solidarity was applicable to industrial modern kind of society. For Parsons, the relationships in the two types of societies are traditional society, which is predominantly where the relationships are predominantly personal, stable, and these relationships are expressive kind of relationships. The modern society, where the relationships are predominantly impersonal or business-like. So, and this is the typological kind of division of relationships into two variable types. So one is expressive, the other is instrumental. In traditional society, the relationships are expressive kind of relationships, whereas in modern society, these are predominantly instrumental kind of society. It does not mean either or kind of things. It's more of one type, less of the other type. Even in the modern society, both types of relationships exist. For example, sex role differentiation in the family. We see that husband, father, his role is by and large instrumental leadership role, where he is following the occupational responsibilities. And the wife mother role is more like expressive kind of leadership role, love and attachment related kind of role, where she is looking after the children, grooming of the children, and the socialization of the children is also taking place. of the two types, we see that one side of variable must be chosen by an actor before he can act with respect to the situation. So instead of twofold typology, Parsons gave 5 dichotomous choices that must be made. And these typologies are ascription versus achievement, expressive are, let's say, of the Gemeinschaft kind of thing, instrumental are Gesellschaft kind of thing. So in Gemeinschaft versus Gesellschaft, ascription versus achievement, diffuseness versus specificity, effectivity versus neutrality, particularism versus universalism, collectivity versus self. So these 5 typologies will be discussed later on.